Being male essentially means being on your own. You face tons of expectations in all fields of life, but no one really cares about you, in most cases, not even your own girlfriend or wife. Your value as a human being is determined by how useful you are to society in general and to women in particular. And don't you ever dare to complain or show any weakness. The moment a man is no longer useful, or worse, needs help in some way or other, he's deemed worthless, and what respect or love he got before will be taken away. The only support a male older than 14 will ever get from others is the advice, or rather demand, to man up. An additional challenge men face is that the court system disadvantages men during custody battles, and thus increases fatherlessness. Additional men carry the burden of military service, which also disadvantages them and creates a lot of psychological problems such as PTSD and depression. There is a real struggle among men that is rarely talked about. Any mention of men's struggle is immediately seen as disregarding women's struggles. This is the main issue, I think, because it makes it taboo to talk about these issues men face. I think when you analyze the social changes that have been happening over the past 30 to 40 years, it's easy to see that boys and men are struggling in important areas, like achievement in school and preparation for careers that take a lot of training. The hard part is reversing that trend. It's not just a matter of doing for boys and young men what has been done for girls and young women. Boys and girls are socialized very differently, and boys, especially, are prone to thinking that what's best for girls is not for them. The bigger issue is that our education system is due for a major overhaul. We are still educating people much the same as we've done in the past, even though attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, especially for boys, who tend to have a harder time sitting still and paying attention. Kids these days are growing up in a culture dominated by video communication and entertainment, as opposed to the more print-based culture that I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I think many people, especially boys, but not just boys, learn best by being active. But schools still prioritize the ability to sit still and listen, read, or write, which tends to work better for girls than boys. We're in an era where gender roles and societal norms are shifting. On the surface, that doesn't seem like such a bad thing. It's not the 70s anymore. With women being viable members of the workforce, those old standards need to change. The problem is that there are a lot of mixed messages in that regard. I'm a man, so I can only vouch from my experience. We're constantly being told that it's okay for men to lack attributes that were considered masculine in the past, while at the same time, most people still expect those traits from us. In terms of what role the father plays, I think it is important to realize what impacts technology and industrialization have had. If you were to go back a few hundred years and compare the way of life, I'm sure more often than not men would be required to do more physical work to tend to the farm, etc. And so, this change in what it means to be a man is also dependent on what it means to be a human in modern society. There are mental attributes as well as the physical. I also believe that slower developments in the prefrontal cortex are due to the fact that young boys are required to take more risks in adolescence to improve their confidence to handle large levels of stress, or more importantly, their fight or flight response. Also, there is a sharp decline in brotherhood and mentors. It's like we don't trust each other anymore, and we're very skeptical of one another. I've been struggling to find a mentor that can help me in my career. I've always had my father, thank God, but our relationship hasn't been perfect. And now that I'm older with more information about him, I realize it's because he wasn't always a part of brotherhood himself. Now it's my turn, and I'm trying to avoid the same path. But I think I'm coming across the same issue he did. Where do I find people to create a brotherhood within my 30s? The friendships I had as a teenager fell apart as everyone went on to live their own lives. One of the best places where most men are finding out mentors and others who bring out the positives in men are the men going their own way communities online. There are a lot of brothers out there in the world who have faced a lot of negativity, drama, trauma, and sometimes outright oppression at the hands of the women they once loved. I think the issue in this debate is inherent to our culture. Most problems are seen as binary. Either the women are disadvantaged or the men are disadvantaged. What is actually happening is that while women are branching out into male jobs, moving away from, let's call it, toxic femininity, men are still being pushed into toxic masculinity, being emotionally repressed, overly competitive, and having a fragile sense of self-assurance based on their ability to live up to those toxic standards. Because although men are less successful in reality, our society still expects them to outperform women. There needs to be some distinguishment between cultural or ethnic outcomes and experiences. The breadwinner model has been a Eurocentric one, imposed on many cultures, but before this model, there had been more of an interdependent one where one is not defined by their economic gains, which privilege a select few and disadvantage the masses. Perhaps there is an opportunity to stop valuing ourselves by power and wealth, and more so our ability to live in harmony with one another. The truth is that men only become men through themselves. But without an amazing prominent father figure, the boy's image of what a man should be becomes tainted. The morals of what it means to be a man are plain and simple, with no crazy deep explanation. Men are good leaders, logically and emotionally intelligent, empathetic, and have an unbreakable mind/body. It hurts me to see so many guys around my age or younger losing the will to become strong, stoic, manly figures with the lack of a proper father figure in their life to where they turn to drugs, alcohol, and meaningless physical relations because they are lost in their life with no purpose. If you are someone who has or hasn't had a father in their life and have become that ideal man that so many of us inspire you to be but still haven't found your calling, teach the young boys of tomorrow what it means to become a man and steps that they can use in their own way to get there. And one of the most important steps in doing this is to recognize how the media and the government, along with the feminist agenda, is currently aiming to subjugate men by telling them that aggression or any exhibition of masculinity is not good. Don't listen to that BS. You are who and what you are. Men cannot be feminized. Women cannot be made into men. That's just the way it is and has been and will be. I genuinely mean it when I say that the system wants you to accept less than you are entitled to, especially in the case of women. For many years, men have been tricked into believing that women are some sort of reward just for being female. This has been highlighted more than ever before, especially in light of some philosophies that advocate for so-called women's empowerment. Men are becoming more and more tired of that, and they would rather choose an alternative road than follow unhelpful social norms. I'll talk about a few of the justifications they use to make you think that women are amazing in all that they do. Men in particular are being led to believe that women with baggage make for ideal romantic partners. Regardless of whether you identify as a man, you may have long since come to the conclusion that making excuses is unmanly and that you must put in the effort to achieve your goals. Your circumstances, history, or upbringing are irrelevant. You simply complete the task at hand. So, here's the truth. Men need to stop simping for women, because the moment you start simping, you're only conforming to what society wants and expects from you. You're only setting a bad example for other men. You're telling women that if one man can be a simp, then others can be too, and hence they can proceed with their entitlement and expect the simps to bow down to them. When a guy loses his masculine frame, he becomes the simp. He allows the feminine energy to overpower him and reduced his masculinity to a shadow of itself. For men to take back their masculine frame, men need to stop simping for women and stand their ground, realize their strength, and stay true to their masculine nature. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Show us your love and support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. And let us know your thoughts on this in the comments. We're always up for a healthy debate and discussion.